All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Key Ministry Disability Ministry Video Roundtable for May 2024. And today our subject is curriculum. And here's why we chose this topic. At Key Ministry, we get lots of requests and questions and that type of thing. And a lot of times, not all the time, but many times, what people are asking about is curriculum. What do we recommend? What are people using? And so we definitely have some. We recommend some of you who are on this call. We recommend your curriculum to people, but Key Ministry does not produce like a Sunday morning curriculum type of thing. But we want to make sure that we are connecting people to great resources and equipping people and training people. So we thought, let's have this discussion with ministry leaders today. So I'm just going to open it up for whoever would like to either start us out with a question or start us out with a resource that you like or maybe you've developed. But let's just start the conversation. So let's talk curriculum. I'll look for hands. Okay, Danielle.
Okay, I have I'll recommend a resource and then I'll ask a question. I've used Ability Ministries curriculum with our adults with great success. They love it. They love the visual aspect of it, the worksheets, the PowerPoint. There's lots of opportunities for participation at any different level. You can have multiple different ability levels in the same class and everybody kind of gets to add their own piece to it. So I would highly recommend that. And then my question is, as much as I love Ability Ministries curriculum, I'm also looking for a curriculum for adults that is more not topical, more like goes through a scope and sequence of scripture. It doesn't necessarily have to be in chronological order or like from Genesis to Revelation, but just something that is more tells like the story of scripture versus a topical. And forgive me, Ryan, if you guys have that and I haven't found it, I'm sorry. But if there's anything that anybody could recommend, that would be great.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Danielle, for sharing. So there's a shout out for Ability Ministries curriculum. And I can see that Jason's on here. I don't know if Ryan is on here yet, but
oh, sorry. I just saw Ability and I assumed it was Ryan. Sorry, Jason.
And maybe it's Ryan posing as Jason. We don't know. But so we'll let them say a little bit more about that. But let's talk about your question. So you're looking more for a scope and sequence type of curriculum specifically for adults. So does anybody have anything they'd like to share that might help answer Danielle's question? And forgive me, we're on two Zoom screens worth of people now. So I'm scrolling to see if Trace, I see your hand up.
Hey, so in our adult group, we have tried everything as well. And right now we've landed on doing some videos from the Bible Project. And that's been going really great. But you have to like tailor it, right? You have to do a lot of your own writing work with it, but it's been going good and it's been received well. So that's my little plug.
So thank you for sharing that. So Trace is using a video-based, it's like a video series kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a website or an app, and they've made all sorts of different videos. Both you can go through, like right now, what we're working through is the character of God. And so tonight we're talking, and it brings all of the different characters from this spot in Exodus where it says, God is faithful and loyal in love and full of grace. And so tonight we're talking about grace. But they go through so much of scripture, and some of it's kind of and break it down to easy to digest chunks with fun visuals that aren't deep. Yeah,
Okay.
fun visuals that aren't childish. So that's good too for adults. It's hard to find adult, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's not specifically designed for individuals with IDD. I mean, right? And so what you're doing is you're taking that existing, video like based curriculum and then kind of tailoring some pieces specifically for who you have in your classes. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. And then in the fall, we're gonna start using this book. It's called Living Well with God. Easy read Bible lessons for people who find reading hard.
Mm.
Again, looking for things that that aren't geared towards children. And this is really, this looks like it's really simple. It has different lessons that I'm gonna actually coach through an individual to lead each week. And it's got the Bible story, it's got a description of it, and then it's got questions that we can ask in the discussion. So I thought that looked really good too.
That's fantastic. So one of the things that we will do is post links to everything that's mentioned in this Zoom. And so if y'all can help me out, if you mention something, if you could try to throw the link in the chat, and then that way, when we upload the video later, we'll have all those. So we definitely want to get ability ministry in there. Thank you. Trace is throwing in some things right now. Lillian is sharing Lifeway's access curriculum tends to be more scope and sequence, and she included the link in there. Yeah, and then Sherry's sharing that her husband, whose degree is in theology, loves the Bible Project videos and finds them very reliable. That's great. Thank you, Jason, for putting in a link to the curriculum that Ability Ministry creates, which that's one of the ones we always hear about. So thank you for sharing that. Living Well with God, easy read Bible lessons for people who find reading hard. That's great. Thank you. I want to check that out as well. What else are people using, or what other questions do you have? And I'll look around because we're on two screens here. So wave your hand wildly if you have something to share. Hi, Sherry, do you have something to share, or are you just waving at me?
Yes, I do. And this has to do with the IDD you were talking about. I too find that none of the material really manages that. And so I found a great free a curriculum that's called Right Way, which is kind of funny. And it has a lot of different there's different levels, and they go through the scripture, and there's for me, I have to use the preschool version for the adults that I have, but there's also other versions, and they have done an amazing job at providing links that are out there that are free, as well as really well put together graphics and games and worksheets and like all different kinds of things, and it's all completely free. And which is lovely, because you can use it and adapt it without feeling like you've wasted hundreds of dollars and it not fit your ministry. And so I have found it to be extremely helpful so far.
Okay, thank you. So Right Way. So I see you're driving, so we'll have to throw the link in there. Maybe somebody else can Google it. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have something they're using or a question that they have? Yes, Joseph.
So is there anything outside of maybe a Sunday school style curriculum that if we're doing like an adult church service that would be applicable to create, as far as music, prayer time, a sermon message type of dynamic? Is there material that would apply to that type of style, as well as maybe a complete children's church service as like a Sunday morning type of actual service?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So does anybody have sort of, I mean, I don't know if you're looking for like like a template for that, or like sermon ideas?
Are
Does
you looking
anybody?
Yeah, so
specifically for
yeah, I mean,
children?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would be more of a template as far as the flow of it, as much as what it may look like, is because there's several folks that we have now that are just in a Sunday morning service. Many of them that have infant alcohol
Mhm.
syndrome, I think that, or whatever that, I
Yeah.
don't know the correct terminology, but
Fetal alcohol syndrome, yeah.
yeah, so very difficult for them to be able to stick through the entire service. And so if we could create an alternate service that would better engage them, would be great. So the material itself, I mean, obviously any biblical messages is fine, but I'm just looking more of a maybe the technique of how to do that, or the structure.
So one thing I would suggest, so at the Disability in the Church conference that happened earlier this month in Orlando, Ryan Wolf actually preached during our worship service time. And while it wasn't specifically, like, we didn't say, the worship service was sensory friendly, but the way he delivered his message was so incredibly accessible. And so I would recommend checking that out. It is on the Key Ministry YouTube channel, just to get an idea of how to make a service more accessible to just a variety of learning styles. And I don't know, there were just so many things that he did, I thought are just across the board could be so helpful for people who are designing worship services. Charla. Oh, she's muted.
Oh,
There we
there I go. Okay. Yeah, what I was just wanting to input with that is I've been studying a lot about universal design for learning, and actually did the presentation this year at the DATC 2024 on universal design for learning. And it is such a great framework for learning and teaching, because it's all about minimizing the barriers and maximizing learning for all. And it is a wonderful way to build curriculum, sermons, programs, really anything that we're trying to do to teach the gospel or the Bible, because it's all about designing from the start and to include everyone in the margins, weaknesses and strengths. And so it's all about building for that intention. It's actually just a typical educational framework, but it works so well in the church, and I'm just really excited about it. I'm gonna plug with Ministries right now. I see Victoria's on here because they have designed their curriculum with UDL principles, and I just love that. But I just think that's a great framework, and if it's helpful, I'm going to be posting that presentation soon on my website, and I'm glad to share that link here if you would find that helpful. And it's just the basics of how to do UDL.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Charlotte. She has great information. So yes, please do share the link. And yes, I'd like to also give With Ministries a shout out. So, and actually Tori has shared in the chat a worship service guide. So this was actually created for people with dementia in mind, but again, it works for a variety of people. That's the whole, idea of universal design for learning. The whole service can be as short as 30 minutes, and then she has the link in there. And I've visited this link, and there's like a little, if this is a link I'm thinking of, there's like a little video that shows what the worship service could look like. Really good information. I actually shared this handbook with our care department here, who works with our older folks. So withministries.org/together. Also, let me go back through the thing here. truewaykids.com is a resource that just got shared. And Access by Lifeway is another resource that's been mentioned. And then Bethesda, which is cjesus.net, is another resource that people have mentioned. Okay, so not right way, true way, kids. Okay, you were close. You were close. Okay, great. Let's see, make sure. Okay, so now we have some hands up. So Lindsay, how are you? Good to see you again.
Hi, it's nice to see some familiar faces, especially after being together in person. So I wanted to introduce my colleague, Jill Benson, who's on the call with us today. Jill is our curriculum developer at the CRCNA, and she oversees the Dwell curriculum that we have. We are going through meeting and trying to figure out what does it look like to kind of use what Charlotte said, the universal design for learning principles, to make the Sunday school curriculum that's just for everybody, truly for everybody. So I guess my curiosity lies in not segregated settings, not disability ministry, so to speak, but in having every kid in the same classroom in a typical church. And so I'm curious if you know of other curriculums that have worked really hard to integrate kind of some of the best of from the segregated sorts of things, and then put it into the general classroom. So we're getting a lot of questions specifically about behavior management as well. So, you know, thinking about IDD, but also thinking about
Angela, Natalie's
neurodiversity.
ride is here. Okay.
Sorry, I muted them. Okay, go ahead.
So also thinking about neurodiversity and how to, you know, how to engage folks in a way that works for kids who have a hard time sitting still or a hard time having a long attention span, that kind of thing. So Jill, I'll let you hop in if you'd like to verbally. I think Jill's somewhere where she can't be on video, but wanted to welcome her to this space.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. Sorry, I'm off video, but yeah, happy to hear other suggestions. Like Lindsay said, where so the curriculum that I work with is Dwell, and we've worked to try and include a lot of suggestions and things that is just a general children's ministry curriculum. We try to include suggestions for disability awareness throughout. But yes, recently we get these questions about behavior management, and then as we ask more, what we are actually finding is that they're having a hard time welcoming neurodivergent children. And so we're very intentional to adjust the language then, because I don't feel that's a behavior management issue. I think that's a welcoming issue. And so that's something Lindsay and I are talking about a lot right now, is how can we create some kind of resources to help address that. So if others have other things they have used, we'd love to hear. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any comments before I go to the chat? Barb?
Yeah, so I was gonna just to that point, a lot of people have asked, we're getting ready to start developing some 5-minute videos for IDD, for children's adapted Bible stories. We get all kinds of questions all the time about how can you make curriculum that works for everyone, for kids who are neurotypical and kids who have like pretty intensive needs. And I think if there's something that works for a lot of people, that's great, but we should also look at what can we add in for just maybe the 1 or 2 kids that need something different. So that's just another way to think about it. So like what we're getting ready to develop, and it's right in the beginning stages, so it's not ready to be released, would be something that one teacher or one buddy could put on their phone for one kid. So I think part of when we're thinking about developing curriculum in an inclusive setting is knowing that we want to make the adaptions to the neurotypical lessons as easy as possible for our volunteers to use. Because I don't know about anyone else, but I know when we did that for our kids at our church, the curriculum that we bought had a whole adapted section, but it was so much prep work and it was so labor intensive that we didn't use it. So that's just another way of looking at how to include everyone in the same room.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, first of all, I'm glad that you're working on that resource, but also thank you for bringing up the point that, yeah, the volunteers need to be able to use whatever it is that you have. So that's really good. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit from the chat, and then, yay, I see Ryan is on here. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we haven't missed anything. Let's see. So Tori did share that the Together Bible Study curriculum works well for large group, has options built in, including 2 tracks of every session. And we already shared that link. So the biggest story is another recommendation. thebiggeststory.com/printables. And Carly definitely uses their printables to have extra coloring pages. And then Shepherd's College shared their information at a conference, maybe our conference, I don't know. So that's in here. They have free faith journey courses for adults impacted by disability. And then oh good, I was hoping somebody would share On Wonder. Tammy's saying On Wonder provides a great curriculum using picture symbols. And Tammy's saying they need more of an adult curriculum, but On Wonder is, and we'll make sure we get the link for that as well. All right, I'm going back. I'm scoping out a couple pages of anybody have their hand raised? Yes, Julie.
We actually, our children's program uses the Gospel Project. And what we do is, because we still have, I call them Zoomers, people zooming in who are homebound or who are sick. And so there's a website called Free Bible Images, and they have gospel stories from anything from cartoon to the Lumo Project, which uses actors that are ethnically correct for the area. And then even if you go on YouTube and look for Lumo in English, the video is there it's like it is straight from scripture, and it's that concrete, Jesus said to Matthew, follow me. And so Matthew gets up and he follows him. And so it's a helpful supplement for our adult classes.
Thank you for sharing that. All right. So Ryan Wolf, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. So I don't know if you were on when I was talking earlier about the message that you delivered at Disability in the Church conference, but the question preceding that was, like, what are some ways to make like a worship service or a sermon more accessible to a variety of people? Do you have any like tips you want to share or anything like that, or about your curriculum?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I appreciate you guys talking about this subject, and seeing how many people are here shows that it's a big interest. My apologies for jumping on late. I have somebody here working on my air conditioner and my water tank, so that's why I was a little late jumping on. I did not catch the first part of this meeting, but as far as making things more accessible, I think one of the best things you can do, and I usually teach this in almost every single breakout that I do, is using the retention learning pyramid, where it talks about how the top of the pyramid is like lecture, where you remember like less than, I think, 5% of what people just say at you, and as you work your way down the learning retention pyramid, talks about how you remember more things the more involved you are in the message. And so that's why got to use visuals, got to use as much as you can, use more pictures than words. If you use words, use less words, make them larger fonts, use dark backgrounds with light text. Always have some type of object, if you can, work it in as you're teaching. At Disability in the Church, obviously I had a big treasure chest, also had a little treasure chest, and had stuff in both of them. So you're drawing your audience in by having something in front of them. You want to build intrigue as much as you can. So my encouragement as you're teaching, if you've got some type of object, set it where everybody can see it, but don't say anything about it because it builds intrigue. It keeps interest and attention. So those are just a few of the things that I tried to work at doing. We have on our website at abilityministry.com a great tool that addresses a lot of these things. It's called fun time fillers. So that they actually will give you different ways you can not only fill time if you need it, but also keep people engaged on learning using multiple different mediums and different things like that. So I'd encourage people grab the fun time fillers one-page document so you can download that, and we also have a video on that. But yeah, use every sense that you can. Don't just lecture. Obviously, when you lecture, you lose. So yeah, engage all the different senses as much as you can. When you have scriptures, don't read them as the teacher. Make people read them. Just engage people in learning, I think is the best thing that you can, and just be as creative as you can in doing that. There's endless ways to engage people in learning, and the only limitation, I think, is our imagination when it comes to that.
Yeah, thank you. These are I know I'm like sitting here taking notes. So great info from Ryan and from Ability Ministry, and Jason's been sharing the links in the chat. So, and again, we'll have all those posted, but it's the Fun Time Fillers video and document. It's a link to a strategies for engagement, which is a presentation that Ryan did. So that's great. And Tammy mentioned that she's prepping tonight with Ability Ministries Fruit of the Spirit series, and she likes it. So that's great. Julie.
So Tom and I are probably big fans of Ryan and his stuff. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the material that we've used from Ability Ministry, and also Ryan teaching that I think it was at the Together conference when you taught that class about how to engage your audience. And I loved it because he had some Legos and he had people build something from the Legos from the lesson. He had some like a whiteboard you could draw a picture on, and all kinds of different ways for people to get their fingers in it and engage in different ways. So I appreciate your curriculum, and I've used it and loved it, trying to talk my church into engaging it more. And so y'all can pray about that if you want to. But anyway, it's good stuff, y'all. I think you could really be blessed by, and so would, of course, the people that we're teaching.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that.
It's great feedback. Julie has shared the freebibleimages.org. That was from the what she mentioned earlier. And then another link was shared, which is an icon/image library that's free, and that is the nounproject.com, and the whole link is in there. Tori shared the Lumo project video link. And Ryan shared a sample curriculum link. So you guys are all going to be busy checking out all these links later. All right, who else has something to share or a question to ask? Yes, Lindsay.
Yeah, so we are, as part of the Disability Ministries Network, doing a listening session next week with folks from a variety of churches. And I'm very excited because it's going to be focused on worship that doesn't rely on words. So we're going to be bringing together visual arts teams, and I hope we'll be talking about things like dance and using tactical or practical things in your hands, like you're saying, Ryan, visuals, experiential things where you go up front and you grab a stone and put it in the water or whatever, right? So I think just the idea of talking about worship without words has just made me kind of think, like, if we just all kind of work towards more of that, more things that don't require words, we are making worship more accessible. And really everyone engages better, like you said, Ryan. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. Then the other thing I was just going to say is, in terms of having students read in class, just a word of caution that like you don't know when someone has dyslexia or reading might cause them extreme anxiety. So just to make sure you're kind of, would anyone like to read this kind of approach?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we look forward to down the road when, so the Disability Ministry Network has a grant that then other organizations are using to have these listening projects. It'll be really exciting when down the road all of that data are compiled anyway, and we'll be able to really learn a lot from all these conversations that are happening. Anybody else? Let me scroll through here. Yes, Julie.
So Lindsay, I appreciate you saying that about not having a child read. I just want to give, since there was a little pause, a personal reflection on that. Our son has, we have 3 daughters and a son, and our son has dyslexia and dysgraphia. And whenever we would put him in class in Sunday school, we homeschooled, so that was easier on his learning, and he just aced everything because we didn't require him to do the things that he couldn't do. So, but in Sunday school classes, as he was growing up, as it was still called Sunday school then, he would, we would go and talk to the teachers first. And we would say, he has dyslexia and dysgraphia. Could you please not ask him to read? And they would always forget. I'm not sure what happened, but he would always be required to read. And so he then decided that he wasn't going to go to Sunday school anymore. So what you do in that kind of a setting really matters for the life of a child. Now, it turned out that he's got an amazing dad, and dad just took him on walks around the church, and they did their own little Bible study thing, and it worked out well. And then he also helped out with his younger sister's class, our Amy, who has disabilities. So it turned out to be okay for him, but there are probably a boatload of other kids that it doesn't turn out well for. So I really appreciate you saying that. And we, with those hidden disabilities, it's harder in a sense because nobody really has compassion for them. They just figure out that they don't want to participate, or, you get some behavior problems in there sometimes, and you just don't know. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Thank you for sharing that. And for kids, who have anxiety, they're going to be spending the whole time being worried about being called on and not paying attention to what they're supposed to be paying attention to. Anybody else? Any other resources to plug? Yes, Jason.
Sorry, I kind of wanted to hop in and mention this. See what y'all made me do. Made me turn the camera on. Thought I could just sit here and hide. Kind of related to the don't ask everybody to speak. We had a young man who had so much energy that if we could have bottled this into an energy drink, I could have retired. Had no idea what to do. So we put him in charge. Today you're going to be in charge of class, and you've certainly got enough energy to do it. And he was a sharp kid, so this is a teen kind of adult class, and it's worked out really well because it's shown other people in the class, hey, wait a minute, I can be in charge. They have I made a clipboard with our schedule, and I can put the link to this in the chat because if you wanted to download it. I went to Amazon and bought the penalty markers that referees carry. And so if I mess up, you can throw a penalty marker at me, and
I love it.
intentionally mess up so that you can throw things. We do have to specify that only the head coach is allowed to throw things at me, not at anybody else. But it's open now. People were hesitant about it, but now they're actually arguing about who can do it. We've had some temper tantrums about how come I can't do this every week. And so what we're trying to do is come up with different roles. So maybe somebody doesn't want to get up front and read, but there are other things that we can set up in our class so that if they're not comfortable reading, maybe they can just advance slides. There's so many different things that we've got going on in our class that we can like, okay, well, you can do this. This is important. And it's not me hovering over you. And I've shared this story before, and I just thought it was kind of cool. Was one of our young ladies was like, I think I should be in charge. I'm like, I agree. If you think you can do it, then I think you can do it too. And so she did this once, and then she said, you know what, I think I could teach. And I thought, okay, great. Well, why don't you teach then? And her mom was really kind of blown away. She's like, I didn't even think this was I didn't think this was a possibility. And I thought, well, if this was happening over in the typical section of the kids area, somebody came up and said, I want to teach, they wouldn't have batted an eye at it. So like, why aren't we doing it too? So our church staff emailed the mother the PowerPoint, and she practiced her thing. And I thought, okay, well, I'll just sit up front with you. I don't want to like dictate the whole thing, but I'll be your assistant. And just she was super nervous at first, but she did great. She was reading from her note cards, and I thought it was fantastic. But until I started thinking about like, okay, well, what can we do with this energy that you've got? Can we make it fun? Like a lot of these things that Ryan was talking about, like that fun time fillers. There was something that we've used, like pipe cleaners. They're so cheap. Get somebody to make something out of pipe cleaners, but allowing these more roles where you're up front, but that, you know, it's obviously volunteer driven to where you're something that you're comfortable. And also I think it's good to let people do something that they might not entirely be comfortable with. Maya, when she was teaching, she was extremely nervous, but it worked out really, really well. And it was good sometimes to push people out of their comfort zone. So that's just been kind of a fun thing. And I think you can do that with, I mean, obviously I'll plug our curriculum, but looking at the whole session in your class as to how the schedule is going to work and coming up with different roles and just plugging different things in there gives everybody an opportunity to participate. Like Ryan said, in that strategies for engagement, everybody's going to remember it more when they're teaching it, and that pressure of being up front. So that's been a really fun thing to see in our class.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. And Ryan shared the link to the head coach resource in the chat. No, that is so good. We as the body of Christ, we need to be able to serve and use our gifts. And what a fantastic way to invite people to use their gifts in such a way. So that's fabulous. And that's making me think of like, okay, how can I come alongside some of my students to use their gifting in that way too. I love it. Thank you. Yes, Charlotte.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. I love that idea, and I think it's a great way to include our whole congregation and their gifts. And I just love, like, I know we have some gifted artists, and my sister is a professional artist even, and I feel like she's felt all her life that she's been very much left out of the church in so many ways. And I think it's a great way to include people that have those artistic talents, that they can engage people in learning. Like, for example, just, like chalk drawings on the sidewalk as they come in. We had an artist that would do these awesome chalk murals in the foyer on this huge, black chalkboard painted piece of, it was just like that chalkboard paint on wood. It was so simple, but I mean, she would do these amazing chalk drawings each week that would go along with the sermon and just get people thinking and, like cool questions. And then with these beautiful illustrations, and we could do, photography, just like little stop motion videos. I mean, there's so many ways that we could include people that have gifts that, that could then engage people in learning in a lot of different multi-sensory ways. And just really get everybody's gifts involved and included.
Yeah. And the whole multi-sensory thing, like that's so important too, as we talk about, whatever curriculum you're using, but having different ways for people to access it. For sure.
That is also, just real quick, but I did include a lot of multi-sensory resources and just ideas on the handouts, which I included in the chat there. There's a link to those handouts. I'll have the video up soon. The handouts are on there now, but there's a ton of multi-sensory ideas that could be for sermons all the way down to, little bitties.
Oh, good. I will be checking that out. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Well, I want to thank you all today. I learned a lot. I'm really excited to share these links. So again, you'll be able to access all of this on the Key Ministry Vimeo and YouTube channels. Give me like a little bit of time to get it up there, but let me just share one more thing from the chat. Sherry saying, in Dr. Hardwick's latest book, he talks about how our quest for perfection in the church setting makes it difficult to be inclusive. Having students serve as teachers, even when nervous, would go a long way towards addressing this. Yeah, I agree. Good point. All right, well, thank you, everybody. We do these conversations every month on the third Wednesday. In June, our conversation will be mental health ministry focused. And so that's up on our events page now, but we'll send you the link anyway, since you're on this one. And then we also invite you to join us on the first Monday of each month at noon Eastern for just an open conversation that we call Idea Share. So if you're not currently getting invitations to that, please go on keyministry.org/events and register. Yes, and Charla's sharing links to overcomerministries.com, the UDL handouts. And again, we'll have all these posted. So thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time. Thanks.